Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Today we're taking a look at Gaming News Consolidated. This is November 3rd through the 9th. Man, I just feel like I did gaming news. But boy, yeah, this week's been moving quick, and we got another big one. I got 5 sheets here, but hey, there's actually a lot to cover. We're going to be going over another remaster, Shadows of the Damned. We're going to be going over what Nintendo has confirmed with the Switch 2. We're also going to talk about the PlayStation 5 Pro, as there's a correction to some specs, and it's actually, let's see, I think yesterday, by the time you're hearing this, yesterday is actually launch day. We also have some changes up with the Wolverine game and Perfect Dark, which was interesting. We're also going to be talking about some new upscaling, some free upscaling upgrades, both for Xbox and PlayStation. We're going to talk about how to play delisted games. Specifically on Xbox. Most of us know how to do PC, right? Emulation. But yeah, there's actually a way to do it on Xbox too. We're going to be, we're going to be talking about Veilguard. We're going to be talking about Stalker 2. We're going to talk about Take-Two selling one of their studios. We're going to talk about Hogwarts Legacy 2 and what that's going to look like. And there's a bunch, folks. Yeah, strap in. This is where I take time every week, usually several hours. This was probably around 6 or 8 hours, watching videos, going through articles, checking stuff, getting multiple sources. And if you're curious who my sources are, at least for the videos, I have all of them subscribed to for all of my gaming news type of stuff. And yeah, it's a lot, but the idea is to consolidate all here for you. Not everybody likes just a whole bunch of videos to keep up with every day, that are 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes. But yeah, these are usually about an hour long, and I push through quite a few stories. This one's going to have roughly about 14 stories. So yeah, let's see how quickly we can get through it. So hopefully you guys are doing well, like, sub, all that jazz. Let's get into the news. So Shadows of the Damned got a remaster. We knew this was coming for a while. Shadows of the Damned 2 is also quite an old game. I believe it's a 360. It was also an arcade too, so if you go to some of the older arcades, you can actually see that that they actually have this game available in some spots. And it's kind of a well-known one for some of the older crowd. And boy, unfortunately, it is not a good port. So the remasters on PlayStation 5. We haven't seen it tested yet, really, with anybody that I've been able to find on Xbox or on PC, but the port on PlayStation 5 has huge frame rate drops. The gameplay is normally at 60 frames, but when you get several enemies or you're in the demon realm where there's like blue hue and a lot of extra particles and stuff, we easily drop to 30 frames per second, sometimes even down to like roughly almost around 25. So there's some massive issues there. And why it's not very optimized very well doesn't really make a lot of sense. And it's actually quite frustrating because this is the case for most remasters that we get, whether we're looking at like Splinter Cell games or whether we're looking at other ones like, or even just total changes with atmosphere and lighting like Until Dawn remaster. These remasters usually aren't that great. Another one that was frustrating was the Metal Gear Solid Remaster Collection, Volume 1. 1, 2, and 3. It's like they run worse. They're not optimized well. The frame rate's worse. And it's like it's not like it would really feel like it would take much to actually improve some of these to make sure that things are at least as good as the initial release. But again, that's not really happening for a lot of these. Some of them have been pretty good, which is great, like the Tomb Raider Remaster Collection, Volume 1, Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3. That's actually been wonderful to actually play that. I give that high praise. And we're going to have Volume 2 coming out in February of next year, and I'll be showing that here on the channel. Of course, I want to play those too. But yeah, most of the time, the remasters are horrible. Something that's weird too is the PlayStation 5 port of this game, Shadows of the Damned, actually come with the PlayStation 4 version, and the PlayStation 4 version is locked at 60 frames per second, and it runs perfect. It's great. Maybe not quite absolutely perfection, but really, really close. And yeah, this is the past gen port. And the fact that the port is the better gaming experience is just kind of weird. Again, it's like this is current gen console, and we can't have good ports to games. We can't have games that actually run well or that are even optimized well. and then it's like we're getting a refresh, and we're already halfway through the life cycle through this generation. We're already looking at 5 years in, and it's just kind of weird, you know. Wow, I'm actually surprised I have a an ad on my own video. That's actually quite surprising. But yeah, it's just kind of weird that, again, these ports are just not great in most cases. Same with like Star Wars Bounty Hunter by Aspire. Same with Star Wars Battlefront Remaster Collection 1 and 2. I wish they took more times. Like, if you're going to do it well, at least do it well, right? Don't just do enough. Actually do the remaster of service, or it's not really even worth doing it, because you're still wasting your time. You're still probably losing money in some cases, and people aren't going to buy your game. It just sucks. We've even seen with the Horizon remaster that there's also been some technical issues. Again, they're not horrible, but it's still the worst version to play. And it's like, again, it's like if you spent $50 on a remaster, that's the worst version to play. Again, why bother? Or if you spent the $10 upgrade, again, it's like, it's not worth it. If it's not at least as good, why bother? And it's just another example. Yeah, it's just frustrating. So Nintendo, they've actually confirmed for the Switch 2 that it's going to be backwards compatible with Switch 1 games. We presume all. But yeah, you'll be able to take your cartridge and basically put it in there and be able to play. That's the idea. So this is actually wonderful news. We were all kind of assuming this because Nintendo does a pretty good job of making sure that the previous gen is at least all backwards compatible, but it would be nice if they could figure out all of the games you ever bought, especially digital ones, are all backwards compatible. And maybe in a way Xbox is actually starting to figure this out with cloud, is that, you know, they want to work on making the entire game store actually backwards compatible. So as long as it's not delisted in some way, but then again, you have purchased the game, I don't know, that's still a little muddy, and I'll dig into that more when I'm able to get some more information. But it's good to see that the Switch 2 is actually going to be completely backwards compatible. It doesn't look like there's going to be any extra fees. We're not going to have to worry about, you know, being hooked up to like Nintendo Live or whatever their multiplayer service is, or some other type of service. It looks like it's just going to be the straight physical games. And maybe even the digital ones too. Just if they're already in your library or registered in some way, they might actually already be there. But again, we'll have to confirm that. But at least the physical ones, backwards compatibility, which is great. And so you can just play all of your old games and just move them right over, which is wonderful. As more details come out about the Switch, and we actually get some details from Nintendo directly to confirm everything, I'll bring those details here about the Switch 2. All right, let's talk about the PlayStation 5 Pro. It's actually now available. What's surprising is it's actually a refresh that's never become unavailable during its pre-order session, so they never actually ran out of pre-orders, which was crazy. It's the first time we've seen that. And that's as of November 6th. Release date was yesterday when you're listening to this on November 7th. And you can still buy them. Again, you can still buy these directly off of PlayStation Store. They're probably going to start showing up fairly quickly in other stores as well, like Best Buy, Target, Fred Meyer, whatever you have around you. They'll probably eventually be there. Probably maybe around Black Friday, but I would assume definitely with like a week or 2 weeks before Christmas. If you're looking to actually pick one up, but not pre-order it, want to go into the store and get your hands on it, I don't blame that for you at all. I do want to clarify, there will be no more 30th anniversary Pros. Slim only. That's it. Again, we had 12,000, I think 12,300 and some, and that is all. We're not going to be having any more. So if you do want to buy one, man, shell out thousands of dollars, because that's what it's going to take, unfortunately. And there are scalpers out there, and they're waiting for your card. Call now. If you do want a 30th anniversary, there's also controllers. You can get a regular, and you can get an Edge. These actually don't really cost that much more, which I'm very surprised. And then the Slim, I don't think the Slim actually costs really any more at all. I think it's, well, maybe an extra $50. I do want to indicate, too, that the Pro plates and the Slim plates are not interchangeable. So it's not like you can swap those back and forth. If you think you can, the curvature or exactly the clips where they go and stuff, it's not exactly perfect, so it doesn't actually work for that, unfortunately. Just want to make sure you guys know that. We did learn too about the real specs for the teraflops, and what a big miss in my opinion. We were initially quoted by just about everybody is that it was about 33 and a half, and now we're finding out that it's 16.7. So we're looking at a 50% reduction. And this is why rumors are a problem. Why on this channel I really try to make sure to clarify and make sure what I'm giving you is the truth and actually factual. It's not just hearsay or this is what everyone else is saying. I'm actually trying to make sure that what I'm saying is backed up by actual information. And you'll notice too on my channel, there's not really a ton of rumors that I actually dig in with, though I did dig in with this one. But again, I wasn't entirely sure. It's like to have 300% more computing power. That is an insane thing, which makes $700 for the Pro better. But then if it's 300% better than the base PS5, why are we still struggling with 60 frames? Why didn't they take time to upgrade the CPU? Because now that's like the bottleneck. And they did give us a couple of extra gigs of RAM, which is nice. But again, comparably, the GPU, now that we know the information, we're looking at a like RX 6800. And that's not great. You can go out there right now and buy them for like $360, $400. There's some other versions out there, brand new and stuff, that you could get them for $8. So it kind of depends, but it's like if you really don't want to spend a ton of money, you don't have to. But you are getting an entire console. You're getting the 2 terabyte hard drive. You're getting the extra 2 gigs of RAM on top of that. So like you're getting some extra hardware features, which is nice for that $700. But and this doesn't change what the games look like that we've seen so far, or what other folks have talked about on different channels like Digital Foundry. But this does definitely show that the PlayStation Pro is a lot weaker than we thought it was, and that the bottleneck is still the CPU, and that's still an issue. So yeah, we should be seeing some people correcting this, such as myself. And yeah, to give you some perspective, this is actually still a 54% increase from the base PlayStation 5. Again, 10.8 teraflops to 16.7. That is still a pretty big difference. The Series X is like 12.15 teraflops. The Series S is 4 teraflops, or like 4.1. And then the Switch currently is 0.5. Yes, 0.5 teraflops. So if you ever exactly want to know why all of the ports suck on Nintendo Switch, that's your answer. They have to be dumbed down so much, they just don't look good. And I really wonder, too, what exactly Nintendo's going to do with the Switch 2, because they do have the most affordable console for sure, and their consoles can still generally run for about a decade before they actually need another one to totally be a next gen. But like, do they want to be more comparable? Do they want to try to catch up some, make up some of the ground, at least as a percentage wise, to get closer to Xbox and PlayStation with their next gen consoles that are coming out in roughly 27, 28? But if they do that, they also got to charge you more. Like, we're already looking at $350 for the last Switch that they put out, which was the OLED model. And $350 is getting pretty spendy. Now for $150 extra dollars, you can get the PlayStation 5. You can get the Series X. And yeah, that's not really too much more. $150 isn't that much. But we'll have to see what the next gen consoles are too. Because now it's like with the Pro being $700, it's just not really going down that well. And it's a really expensive price for what you're actually getting in a package. And it just seems like a ton. I mean, roughly we got about a 40% increase, I think, with the PlayStation 4 Pro versus the regular. But the price tag was the same. The Pro sold at, I think it was $400, and so the PlayStation 4 Pro So also sold at $400. The base and the Pro were the same price tag. This time, we're going from $500 to $700, and that's just a tough pill for a lot of us to swallow. It's a lot of money. Some people can still go for it, and I think if you want to use your money that way, absolutely, and you actually do have the money, like it's not going to put you in some pain or set you back financially, please don't do that. We want you to be wise with your decision making on that point. But yeah, if you have the disposable income, and you really want that over other stuff, why not? Black Friday's coming. Maybe check out some other deals that are out there. But yeah, the Pro is going to be available. It's available now if you want to go grab one. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Creative director for the Wolverine game over at Insomniac has left the studio and project to go over to Perfect Dark, an Xbox studio. So Perfect Dark is going to be a reboot game that we're going to get roughly in 26. We know they're having some struggling issues, but we know that the game has been in development for a while, that it is toward the tail end. So I'm not really sure what the creative director is going to be helping with at this point. I would feel like really just polish and maybe finishing up some final mechanics in the game or whatever. So I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, Brian Horton has left the Wolverine game and has gone over to Perfect Dark reboot. And it's kind of weird because both of these games are slotted for 2026. So maybe he felt like he was done over with Wolverine and then got offered or offered himself to be able to work for Xbox. But either way, Xbox either offered or took the opportunity to take him, maybe for this project and for future projects. But either way, Horton is now over at Xbox, working on Xbox games. He was really well known for Rise of the Tomb Raider, which was probably definitely one of the better games out of that trilogy. But yeah, Rise of the Tomb Raider he was really well known for, and he's working on, again, single player games, and I think those games are going to shine. I think we'll see his handiwork in both games. We'll just have to see how much. And how much he can actually do in the next couple of years. Again, it's like I'm not entirely sure. But it just seems kind of weird because both games have had some issues. We know Wolverine, some alpha gameplay was leaked, and some of that source code, I believe, too, with the Insomniac hack, which, again, that was a ways back. This is actually how we learned about the Wolverine game in the first place. But, yeah, so that's had some trouble development. But I wondered why he left, honestly, because it just seems kind of weird to leave a project that has the same release date for another one. And again, both of these games are pretty close to being done. We should be hearing more about them, of course, next year in 2025. But yeah, maybe too, there's just something more going on. It makes me wonder too if Horton is just partly the result of some issues going on behind the scenes at Insomniac, making the Wolverine game. So again, we'll have to see what they share and what they show in 2025. Both of these games do look fairly fun. I'd probably be more interested in the Wolverine game, but again, a lot of these single-player games for $70, they seem pretty small and not a lot of replay value. So I really want to see a lot before I really get committed and wanting to put down that type of money, because it is going to be expensive. But, since I do have Game Pass, and we'll continue to have that through 26, we'll be showing you Perfect Dark here on the channel when that time comes. And I'll keep you guys up to date on both games. Okay, the Xbox Cloud, it's going to be expanding. So if you own these on Xbox, you can actually play these on the cloud. And you don't have to have Game Pass. You still technically have to have the service itself. But we have heard that there's going to be a cloud subscription that probably won't include Game Pass, or will have a lesser version of Game Pass, like Game Pass Standard. But yeah, if you own these games on Xbox, you can actually just stream these now. And the whole idea with the cloud, we got to hear earlier this month, is that Xbox wants to make the entire Xbox store cloud accessible. And so that means they run the game for you. They stream it to whatever device you're playing on, your TV, your tablet, your phone, your console, whatever, your Fire Stick, and basically you can bring your entire library with you as long as you're subscribed to xCloud. And that's honestly kind of a cool idea. I could certainly see that being beneficial to some folks that are on the road a lot or have a fairly large family and needing to change between devices and stuff. I don't know. It's very interesting, but the fact that they're just expanding the accessibility and the ease of access, unfortunately behind a paywall, but hey, it is what it is. They got to make money at doing this because that infrastructure is not cheap. But yeah, they're going to be continuing to expand that. So the games that we're getting is Dredge, a Dying Light 2 Reloaded Edition, and you got to get the edition right, folks. You can't just take this game and shove it in and play on xCloud. It's got to be the specific edition. Also, we're getting Hades, High on Life, Guardians of the Galaxy, Black Ops 6 we already have since launch, PGA Tour 2K23, Cruder Motorfest, and Witcher 3 Wild Hunt and Complete Edition. This is so far an unconfirmed list on Reddit, but except for Black Ops 6, that's already released. We know we can play it on the cloud, which I should actually try that now that I'm thinking about it, see how it works. But yeah, Xbox will continue to expand their cloud list. And again, it's like you don't necessarily have to have Game Pass in the future to be able to play these games. They just want to take the entire Xbox store, thousands and thousands of games, and have them all be accessible through the cloud. So again, you can basically take your library wherever you want to go. You don't have to buy a console in order to play these games, or you don't have to lug your console around in order to do that. So I think that's huge for some people. And I think that really opens up and expands the ability to play AAA titles without having to have the AAA hardware, which is expensive. And if the price just continues to go up, which is likely because of inflation and also the price of the Pro, yeah, this is going to be a good choice for some people because maybe they can't afford $700 to $1,000 a year to get into that new console space. But now they don't necessarily have to worry about that. And this is partly what I've been trying to share on the channel is like Xbox is no longer focused on trying to sell you their console. They're selling you the type of service that you want. And they have two of them. Access to a ton of games, a lot of stuff day one, that's first party, and a lot of third party too. That's some on day one and others in 6 to 12 months. We're currently over 500 games on Game Pass Ultimate. And for basically $165 when you remove the multiplayer, which is a pretty good deal. If you're interested in several games a year, basically pays for itself. And then too, with the cloud, it's like, well, you're able to just take your entire library with you on the go anywhere, on anything, which is pretty insane. And this really opens it up to a lot of emerging markets or kind of second or third world countries. As long as you have an internet connection of basically 5 megabits per second or more, you can actually use the cloud. Of course, the better the connection, the better experience you're going to be having. But yeah, the entire Xbox store is the goal. Of course, it'll take a long time to get there, but that is pretty incredible because no one else is doing anything like this. This is literally, well, I guess Steam in a way, and the Epic Store. Again, you buy those games and you have a ROG Ally or a Steam Deck or something, then yeah, there you go. You have your entire library with you. But yeah, it is just pretty incredible that Xbox is doing this and wanting to have the entire store, which is pretty insane. I do want to say too, though, with the focus of Game Pass and cloud and streaming your games instead of having them natively saved on your hard drive locally, I'm not entirely sure if Microsoft's actually going to make a handheld. I know this has been making its rounds excuse me, around the internet and stuff, and a lot of people are believing this. And two, people are using quotes from Sarah Bond and from Phil Spencer to basically solidify their belief that we are going to have a handheld. But the way in which they've been saying it is not necessarily saying that Xbox is going to make a handheld. They're excited about the handheld space. They're excited about the growth and expansion of Game Pass. They're excited about the future of handheld and all of this other stuff. But again, people are interpreting, I feel like people are interpreting it as Xbox is going to make a handheld. Well, if we already have the ROG Ally, the Steam Deck, and possibly some other players coming to the field, as this becomes more of a common idea to just cloud all of your games in your entire library, why would Xbox need to make a handheld? The handhelds are already there. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. And just like them not making a refresh this time, basically they expanded and doubled the memory size. One version has a disk drive, the other version doesn't. But yeah, you can get two gigs of storage space now for $600 instead of just, or excuse me, yeah, 2 terabytes instead of 1 terabyte. So, but again, they didn't do this entirely like, you know, next half step up refresh idea like the PlayStation 5 Pro is. And they're totally skipping that. A lot of people thought, okay, when's Microsoft going to bring theirs out? And that didn't happen. People are still waiting for Xbox to present a handheld or some other type of new hardware. Well, I think already we've had that hardware. They already showed that at the end of October, which was, again, different types of consoles, you know, with disk drive, without disk drives. We have a white Series S again, a new model, a 2024 model, and we also have 2 terabyte versions now. So it's like they have presented new hardware, and again, I think people are reaching a little too far and taking the rumors a little too far and getting people hyped for this handheld that we don't have confirmation on yet. Again, they're talking about handheld and the future of it and expanding into it, right? And that's what Cloud is doing. That's what Game Pass is doing. But again, it doesn't have to be theirs. So I'm waiting for some actual confirmation. And my belief is that, no, we're not actually going to get an Xbox handheld. Because if there's already competitors that they can utilize, it's cheaper to sell software than to make hardware and try to sell it and compete with everybody else. In my opinion, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's not going to be the best bang for their buck. Maybe once Cloud is bigger, maybe when Game Pass is bigger, that would make more sense. Okay, when we're at like 50 or like 100 million users across the 2 different types of services, but we don't even have the Cloud subscription yet. Okay, it's partnered in with Game Pass Ultimate. But when Cloud maybe gets also its own subscription service, like Sarah Bond is hinting at, that would maybe make a little bit more sense. But for right now, it doesn't make sense for Xbox to make a handheld because, again, they didn't even make the refresh. You know, again, why would they? Now, some people, too, are saying they're not even going to make a console next gen. Yes, they are. They have said very plainly, Phil Spencer included, that, yes, the next gen is coming. So I'm trying to unmuddy the water here and trying to actually see what is being said factually instead of expanding onto what I think is going to be done or just joining the crowd with everybody else. Because to me, it doesn't make sense that a handheld is actually coming from Xbox because we already have good options. And for them to try to compete in that when they're going all software and cloud just really doesn't make a ton of sense. So personally, yeah, you heard it here first. I don't think they're going to make one. But ultimately, we'll see. And if I'm wrong, I'll eat my words. Absolutely. Let's talk about PlayStation 5 and Xbox getting a free upscaling upgrade. We found out through AMD that Xbox is getting 3.12 FSR3, and this is going to be this is an upscaler to get to 4K resolution, basically. And so what is this supporting? Well, anti-lag 2, because again, every time you add more frames in between your actual game frames, you're increasing some lag there. That's always an issue. It's also going to fix dilation depth for GLSL shaders, which again, I don't even know what that is. Full disclosure, I'm not a PC guy like I used to be. I don't even know what a lot of this is, but I'm just bringing it to you for those that do actually know. And if you'd like to let us know what some of this is, like GLSL shaders, let us know in the comments down below and fill us in. It'll also help eliminate pixel flicker while things are in motion, which sounds great. It will also help with ghost streaking, which is a huge problem when you're actually adding extra frames in between game frames, trying to get that higher frames per second. So yeah, getting rid of the ghosting would be really nice. Also support frame distortion texture and this will also be optimized for X and S, both versions of the series. We also know too that PlayStation is likely to get this as well. PlayStation 5 currently has 3.11, which adds frames in between game frames to hit that, doubling or at least 60 frames per second. Some too can even be optimized up to 120. So the idea is whatever the game is running at for a frame rate, 3.11 is going to be adding double the frames to give it that better smoothness. So yeah, again, if you're running at 30, it'll give you 60. If you're running at 40, it'll give you 80, and so on and so forth. And so that's actually really nice, because if you're kind of on the fence about getting a Pro, or it's just kind of a lot of money right now, understand that, while some of these titles are going to be added in to this type of technology, down the road, you're going to be having more and more games that are just going to have this free upgrade with better resolution. Well, not better resolution, excuse me, better frame rate. And this is actually, too, going to be really nice. I hope this also implemented with the PlayStation 5 Pro. I would assume it does because, again, it has the same CPU, a lot of the same motherboard, and all of that jazz. A lot of the same hardware and setup. So I imagine it would also work with the Pro. But with the Pro, at least, with AMD FSR 3, you'll actually be able to get your frame rate and also be able to get your really high resolution with ray tracing and everything. And that would maybe partnering with Pro Enhancement with AMD's FSR 3, you might actually be able to get the best of both worlds. That would be huge. But again, a lot of this too also has to be upscaled through software and technology, because the hardware itself still can't do it. We still can't get true 4K at 60 frames, which is crazy. You still just kind of have to pick one or kind of muddle with both and get as close as you can, a kind of happy medium. And it is definitely an improvement. We know that. We've seen that. We've been able to have third parties test it. But again, is it worth $700? That's a question you have to answer. But I do think it's cool that AMD 3.12 is now supported with Xbox, and PlayStation has 3.11. Probably going to get 3.12 at a later date. We do have a few games. Weren't able to find that list again, which sucks, so I was only able to see one, but Immortals of Avium. Again, not a great game. Not a lot of people played it. Pretty much nobody plays it today. It is on Game Pass, so I actually kind of want to try it out to see if that is actually in the settings, see if I can, see a difference myself on my Xbox. But yeah, we'll have to see. I do want to make it clear that as of right now, AMD's website, their own website, says that Xbox has 3.12, but there's no mention of PlayStation. And there's also no mention of the Pro or future editions. It's just how it is currently. But I would assume, since it has 3.11, 3.12 is coming, right? That makes the most sense. All right, let's talk about delisted games that can still be playable. So we all know there's emulation, right? Again, you should be able to do it legally. Make sure you actually buy the copies, etc. But personally, I play on Xbox, and when I saw that Pandora Tomorrow last year, maybe it's a couple of years ago now, wasn't actually available, I thought that was kind of weird, because we have a lot of the other Splinter Cell games that are available, like Stealth Refined, like the first one, all the way to like Blacklist and Double Agent, some of the newer ones, and even Conviction, and anywhere in between, except for Pandora Tomorrow. So again, there's some kind of licensing issue going on there. But if it is a backwards compatibility list game on Xbox, if you can find a physical copy, all you got to do is just put it into your machine, and voila, you got the game. Even though you can't buy it at the store anymore, you put the disc in, the console will read it, you'll get a prompt that says that it needs an update. It'll tell you how big the update is, which is basically the game, with any other software improvements that may have been added to the game, since it's an original Xbox or Xbox 360 game. And then you have it. As long as you have the disc and it's downloaded, pretty much you can play the game, even though it's delisted, even though you can't technically buy it anymore. So that's actually kind of cool. So you can still do this also with Bad Company 1 and Bad Company 2 for Battlefield. I was able to find Bad Company 2 for $5 over at GameStop because they actually did start carrying original Xbox and Xbox 360 games, along with, like, I think PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 as well. Maybe even original PlayStation, which that would be going pretty far back. But if you're interested basically in 360 or PlayStation 3 or even PlayStation 2, you can check out your local GameStop or even go to a retro one to see what they have. But yeah, it is worth maybe checking if you're into some of that stuff like myself, wanting to kind of expand your library and just have more access to more games, old and new. It's kind of a cool way to do that. So even if it's delisted, you can't buy it anymore, even from the store, you can still go see if you can find a physical copy and yeah, still be able to play it. And I will play Pandora tomorrow, at least a piece of it for you guys, just to show you the game, just to show you that it actually works and that even if that it is delisted, it still plays. But yeah, I think that's really cool. So there is a backwards compatibility list. You can check on Xbox's website for the list yourself. And I hope, too, they actually continue to expand this. We know Sarah Bond came out earlier this year saying that they now have a new, dedicated, honestly sounds quite a bit bigger, too, backwards compatibility team. I imagine the cloud has something to do with this because, again, it's like if it's available on the store, they want to make sure you can actually cloud stream it to whatever device you're using, which, again, I think is great if you're into that kind of thing. But also, when it becomes delisted, what about then? It's like technically you bought it, but now it's delisted. So do you still technically own the game? Or do they just take it from you? That is still a question that I think we need to answer. And the more and more we dig into this digital stuff, while some of it is very nice and convenient and definitely more accessible, it still does not prove ownership. And I think we also need to remember that too. So the games I really want to keep or I really want to own, I like to own physical copies of those. And then for the rest of the games that I just want to play and experience, I'm okay with just experiencing those and having access until I've beaten the game. I'm good with that, which is why I use Game Pass. We're getting another game adaptation by Apple, no less. You will not guess what game it is. Because, yeah, I was kind of shocked. It's Oregon Trail, baby. This is actually going to be a movie. The director and writer are not well known. We don't know who they are. They haven't worked on much. And, yeah, I can't wait to see, like, axle snap or some, like, disease going crazy or somebody passing away or, like, just a ton of spoiled meat on the side of the road on the set while they're making the movie. You know, because we all had spoiled meat, right? We always shot too much. Or maybe, too, we'll actually get to see some hunting where someone will stand there and start blowing away all of the buffalo and bison and deer and just everything, right? And all the birds and just have this massive... We all, you know, like, we all did it, right? Of course we did. But, like, I don't see how they can really make an interesting movie out of this that isn't going to become some maybe more like a documentary kind of a deal. So, yeah, this is just kind of weird. And by Apple, of all things, it's like, who's even asking for this? Okay, the Oregon Trail game is a classic, but it's pretty dry. It's not like there's massive demand, right, for this. It's just kind of weird. Okay, but yeah, we're actually going to be getting a movie. Might as well call it the Donner Party and just have it be rated R, because I don't see how anybody is really going to care to actually see this on a streaming service or see this in theaters. Okay, kind of like Minecraft, as an example. Like, that'll be coming... that'll be coming out next year. I'm going to see it in theaters, so you don't have to. I'll give you my review on it. Same with, like, the Tomb Raider series that I saw for Season 1. 8 episodes. Again, not great. Definitely some issues and some frustrations there. And if they do more of the same with Season 2, it's just like, nope, I'm not... Like, I'm not interested, really. I don't want to continue on seeing any more of these seasons because they're a waste of my time. And I think, honestly, you know, they would be a waste of yours, too. But I want to be able to do game adaptations because it is becoming more popular. There is money going into this. And then there is also people from the studio being taken away working on these movie and TV show projects instead of actually working on video games, which is more or less what I want. So I cover this to save you money and to help be the sound of reason when they don't actually do it right. Okay, like Halo, like some of the stuff in The Last of Us, like Twisted Metal, like God, I'm just drawing a blank now. But anyway, there's others out there, and yeah, I hope. I just can't see how Oregon Trail is going to be appealing. Like it's going to draw people to subscribe, and yeah, I'm going to watch the Oregon Trail movie. Seriously? Yeah, if it ain't rated R, they shouldn't even be doing it. And most of us too that remember, it's not like this is going to be made for kids. It's not like this is going to be made for a younger audience. Most of us that actually played Oregon Trail, like we're over 30 by now. You know, or right at 30. Like we're pretty old. In my opinion, the movie should be rated R. That'll be more interesting, right? But again, I don't think they'll do that. I think they'll make it rated PG-13 or something, and just the movie's gonna suck. Let's talk about Meta. They lost another $4.4 billion last quarter through their earnings call. They did see production costs rise another 19%. I can't remember if that's quarter to quarter or year over year, but still 19% is huge. They also still expect costs to continue to increase, not slowing down. This is a really big problem. I just don't understand how they can keep going. Because adding up all of the money that they've sunk into Metaverse and all of this, and, you know, rebranding the MetaQuest whatever's handheld, or headsets, I should say, it's like they're at $50 billion and climbing. Like they have blown $50 billion. They have blown $50 billion. Like that's 5 EAs, to give you an example. Everything from EA being shoved into a box, and it's basically 5 of those, 5 boxes, to equal the amount of money Meta has blown on Metaverse. It's just insane. I don't understand what they're doing. And Zuckerberg basically has complete control. They don't even have a board anymore, last I heard. And it's like he saw Ready Player One in the theaters, which is a cool movie. I enjoy that, but I don't think the technology's there. And he built it to scale way too fast. And didn't really make it scalable. He just made it big to begin with. Like it was going to be the next big thing. And this is when we had cryptos and NFTs and all of this other stuff going on, which most of it ended up being a scam. And they're bad words now. And so Zuckerberg's just kind of stuck with something that's not really making money, that is just burning through tens of billions. And it's like at some point he's got to stop, right? At some point it's got to be a profitable side of the business. And that's just not happening. So yeah, 50 billion now. It's just unreal. Let's talk about Dragon Age Veilguard. So how is it? Well, Metacritic shows pretty big difference between critics and users. Critics have it at a 79 to a 93. Even a few probably ratcheted up to 95 out of 100. Users, on the other hand, have it a 2.8 to a 4.2 out of 10. So we're not even getting really close to a 5 out of 10. And that is pretty bad. Steam currently has it at a 73%. And people feel like they've already beaten the game, or they're just not interested anymore. And so they've actually peaked a fairly good number. But like after the first initial launch weekend, the numbers are definitely trending down at this point. And again, like the game is supposed to be around, I think, 20, 25 hours total. If you do everything, you're probably pushing 35, 45, maybe 50 hours if you're slow like me. But yeah, that beating all of that in a weekend, I don't know. I don't know. That seems kind of fast to me. But yeah, last weekend we peaked at 89,000 on Steam. Currently, we're right around 45,000. So again, it's just not holding up very well in its first week. That's kind of tough. The biggest complaints right now are writing, dialogue, choices, and acting. At least some of them, and then boring combat, repetitiveness. Is kind of an issue. And a lot of people too say that it doesn't feel like a Dragon Age game. it was originally being a single player game, and then they made it live service because of the trendiness, right? The idea from 2017 to 2021 is that it was actually being tailored to be a live service game. So some of these elements you can still probably see as you're playing if you're paying attention, or you think of it more of a live service. It's like, oh, that makes a little bit more sense if it was actually live service. Because, yeah, they were trying to make it one for 4 years. That's kind of hard to remove all of that. But then they decided to change course after seeing what was going on and made it story-driven. They also changed the name from Dreadwolf to Veilguard. But yeah, it probably would have been worse if they had left it as a live service. I mean, live service is just becoming a bad word. A bad word. It's just tough to get out there because we know what they're doing. We get to see it in just about every single game that's out there. But players are finishing the main story fairly quickly over the weekend. I even took time to talk to a pretty big Dragon Age fan. Okay, read the books, keep up with the lore, know all the characters. They literally know pretty much everything about Dragon Age. They've played all the games. They've also played all of the other BioWare games too, like Anthem and all the Mass Effects. So yeah, they're pretty up to date. They said too that the dialogue was just bad. It was hard to connect with the characters, reminded them a lot of Andromeda's blandness, which is not great, but still better than Anthem, but somewhere between Anthem and Andromeda, or at least really, really close to Andromeda's level of game design and play and how everything came together for the game. They could see the live service aspects in the game and the mechanics being retooled, and it honestly makes the progression and the loot and leveling make more sense if it's a live service, but that's not how it is anymore, and so it just doesn't, it feels off. And I think that probably takes away from the immersion and the experience too, because again, they tooled it to be a live service game, and this is why I think a lot of people are frustrated with live service, because the game is catered to just sell you more stuff, to keep you playing, to keep you grinding, to keep giving you more opportunities to buy. And that in and of itself takes away from dialogue, takes away from story, game design, combat, all of that stuff. It takes away from that. And if you're going to put time and energy and money into one thing, you can't put it into something else, right? And we've talked about that too on this channel. Some live services can be done really well and even have a good comeback story. But again, there's other ones where it's like we get Concord, or all of the canceled games we'll never know about. That's, even just so far at the start of this decade. Embracer Group has canceled a lot. We've also had a lot of canceled mobile games, which are all live service to death, free-to-play stuff. And then Sony has also had 6 titles, live service titles, that were also canceled. They still have another 6 more, and we're starting to hear what all of those are at some point or another. But, man, it's... like I said, live service is starting to become a bad word. I did also take time to look at PlayStation Time Tracker. Right now, in the last 30 days, Veilguard is number 83 out of 100, so not great. But the last 7 days, it's actually moved up a ton of spots. It's number 23 out of 100 now, and it's moving up really quickly within this 7-day time frame. It's moved up 60 slots. That's huge. It's hauling butt. To get toward the top. I think right here is where it's going to plateau. Again, it's not a super long game, maybe a lot of replayability. People are having trouble connecting with the characters, having trouble with the dialogue, and two, the dialogue, some people say, are just extremely cringy. But yeah, the couple of games that are right above it, out of the 100 on Time Tracker, is Gran Turismo 7 and Monster Hunter Wilds Beta. It did really good the last 7 days. And Wilds isn't even out yet, which is kind of hilarious. And it's beating Veilguard. So Wilds is going to be a huge game. It is going to sell like hotcakes, and Capcom is going to make a ton of money from this. They'll probably sell over 10 million copies pretty quickly. I think a lot of people are going to buy it. Let's talk about Take-Two Interactive. So they're a pretty big publisher. We know that they bought, let's see, they bought Gearbox, and did they buy another one? I'm not sure if they did. But we found out yesterday that they are actually selling Private Division, which they've had for quite some time. We don't know to who yet. We don't know who bought it. But buyers are taking all of the games. Currently, the ones that we know about that Private Division is working on, and also the unknown projects or the unnamed games that they're working on. But Private Division made Outer Worlds, which was pretty heavily praised a few years ago. A really fun game to play. It had a blast. They also made Hades, which is one of the cloud games that is available. Available to play on xCloud. But Take-Two already closed Roll 7, which made Rollerdrome, and also closed Intercept Games, which made the Kerbal Space Program. So, yeah, Take-Two is probably trying to get more money out of this. I mean, I would prefer to sell something at a discount than not get anything for it at all and just close the studio, right? Just lose money on it. So, and I think it's certainly better, of course, for the studio too. No one's being laid off. Nothing's being canceled. It's just being transferred to a different owner. So that's great. Someone's willing to take the shot. Probably someone definitely smaller than Take-Two Interactive would be my guess. Or maybe they're even going independent. I'm not entirely sure. I'll bring more of those details if that ever comes forward. But I think it's great. Again, it's like we're not having more layoffs. We're not having more canceled games. Like, we're just having a smaller studio that is now going to a different home and is going to continue to keep doing what they're doing. And it sounds like the sellers are going to keep the games that they're working on, the ones that we know about, and the projects that don't have an official name yet. So that's great. But yeah, when I heard that, it's just like, man, again, maybe Take-Two is kind of having some trouble. Because again, it's like they got rid of Roll 7 Studio that made Rollerdrome. And they also got rid of Intercept Games, which made the Kerbal Space Program. And now they're selling off Private Division. So they're shrinking down too. And they're the ones ultimately that are going to make some big bank off of Grand Theft Auto 6. But again, the game's not here yet. We got to wait till the end of next year, fall of 2025, to actually start getting sales for them, for it actually to start making a profit. And I am super curious on what the budget is, operating costs, all that stuff. Any data I can actually get on how big this game is I'm going to be getting my hands on it. I'm going to be looking for it. Because what's crazy is that some people are saying this is like the first $1 billion budget game, which sounds crazy. Even if that is including the marketing and stuff, $1 billion to make this game over roughly 13 years, is just crazy. It's so much freaking money. So I'm very curious of the budget. The budget I know is going to be huge. But yeah, $1 billion, man, that is going to be something else. I did want to talk about the next Hogwarts Legacy 2 game. We know this is actually going to be continued on with Warner Brothers, but it does have me a little bit worried. Let me explain. Warner Brothers has a broader version for Harry Potter now. So they made Hogwarts Legacy. It sold really, really good. And then they put out Suicide Squad, and that was just awful. They lost basically over $200 million on that game. And it's not even going to make it halfway through its life cycle before it's completely canceled, probably. And it's an embarrassment, too. Like, they were really hoping this was going to be a really big deal. They didn't seem to really care about Hogwarts Legacy. They were glad it made them money, but again, it wasn't their main thing. And again, the big AAA game they were pushing for through Rocksteady just really did not perform. But again, it's not the same type of quality of game either. That's pretty apparent with their character design. So, yeah, I mean, you get what you shove out there, I guess. If people don't like it, they're not going to buy it. What do you expect? But we found out that HBO is basically going to reboot the original movies as a TV show. So they're going to take the movies, and they're going to take each movie, I guess, and split it up into multiple episodes. Yuck. I am not excited for that. Shows have a different pacing than movies. They also need to be designed differently. And yeah, this is kind of a problem. And then the movies retell the books. So it's kind of an issue when the TV writer for this HBO show indicates that they didn't read all the books, that they weren't really that interested. They only read some of the books to their daughter, who wanted them to be read to her until she was able to read them herself. So we don't really have somebody that's that invested in Harry Potter writing the TV show. But hey, it gets worse. Let me keep digging this in here. There's also licensing for several mobile games. Yay. We don't know how many or exactly when or who they're done by. But we know that they are coming. We also know that Hogwarts Legacy 2, the next big upcoming game for them, is going to be coordinated with the show in telling some of the stories and some of the kind of side quests type of things in the show. And this really doesn't make sense because, oh yeah, this is really, the more I think about it, the worse it gets, because while J.K. Rowling still has the ultimate creative control over the Harry Potter IP, smart for her, by the way. That's what George Lucas should have done with Star Wars, because now Star Wars is just effed over, and I don't think it's ever coming back, unfortunately. My 5-year-old even asked me to watch Star Wars. Think of that. We watched some of the fun, like, space scenes and stuff. It's like, yeah, Star Wars, but is he interested in the newer stuff? Rogue One. Pretty much. But nothing else. He'd rather watch the start of Episode 3. He'd rather watch the ending battle of Episode 4. He'd rather watch Endor. I mean, yeah. It's good. It's good, folks. And they mucked it up real bad. So it is good J.K. Rowling still has creative authority and control over the IP. But still, I'm not overly excited about some of these projects. Because, yeah, if Hogwarts Legacy is going to be coordinated with the show, which is based off of the movies, which is based off of the books, and then Hogwarts Legacy 2 is also going to be based off of the original Hogwarts Legacy, it's like everything is based off of everything else. So we're all really basing it off the books, really. Is that really going to work? I'm not entirely sure. I'm not holding my breath. And then are we going to have, and again, this is like coordinated, inspired by all of this kind of stuff. So how much is going to be retelling? What's going to be added? What's going to be changed? Are they going to actually include Harry Potter? Are they going to have someone else act for Harry Potter instead of Redcliffe? We don't know. Like, there's just a lot of questions here. We do know we're still going to have a Hogwarts Legacy Director's Cut, which is going to be the first game that's going to be made by Rocksteady. Excuse me. Yes. Is that right? Yes, Rocksteady. Rockstar is Take-Two Interactive. So yeah, we know that Rocksteady is working on that right now. All we know right now for rumors with what the Director's Cut is going to have, we're expecting more missions, more spells, more items, an extra location maybe an extra boss or something. But it's basically going to be the same game. It's basically going to be a reselling of the same game. And how much is it going to cost? Freaking money, baby. It's going to be some money, I guarantee you. And I hope they do actually allow like a $10 or $20 upgrade for this, because it's really not worth buying the game again just after, 3 or 4 years. It really seems kind of crappy to be doing that. Maybe, too, they're going to fix some of the bugs, which is nice, but they should be doing that anyway with free updates. Right? We also know that Hogwarts Legacy is going to have a ray tracing package for the PlayStation 5 Pro. But is the Director's Cut going to have that? Because, again, it's going to be treated as a separate game. It's going to have a different SKU. This isn't extra DLC. This isn't some update. This is a whole new, brand new package for the Director's Cut. again, it's like, what are they doing? So, yeah, again, I just think Warner Brothers is trying to get money through the door. But yeah, this is sounding pretty horrible. Honestly, it sounds like just corporate Warner Brothers completely focusing on making money. We're making a show. We're based off of the movies. We're probably trying to sell movies again. We're probably trying to sell the books again. Because again, those people, those kids that grew up with all of this are now having kids. Or maybe, brothers and sisters are having children of theirs, or whatever, and they can be an uncle or an aunt. So it's like there is some of that there, but also kids aren't having as many kids as they used to with the previous generation. So it's not going to make as much money as maybe people think. But yeah, Warner Brothers is just going all out here, just shoving. And then we haven't even talked about merchandise. I guarantee you that's coming. The TV writer, expressed that too. Basically, you can just make anything from Harry Potter, and it sells globally. But with Warner Brothers getting their fingers deeper into this and making some of the decisions, and again, all of these pushes, all within the next, roughly 5 years, I worry about this, because the TV show is going to be influencing the game. Okay, it's going to be making the movie renditions basically worse, telling the same story. How much is going to be changed or altered? Again, every time we have these like redos, these reboots and stuff, they tweak stuff and they don't stay true to the lore, which I absolutely hate. Okay, I don't want you to retell stuff to me that I already know, that has already been established before you were freaking born. All of that stuff, right? But they feel like they got to make it their own, and it's like, then get the frick out of here. We don't want you making stuff like Rings of Power. Oh my gosh, what are those? Those two dudes are idiots. Like, what the heck are they doing? If they get a third season, man, I've lost all respect for Amazon. Gosh, it's so frustrating. I can't even tell you. But I also feel like Hogwarts Legacy, ultimately the game, it wasn't meant to have a sequel. It was like, here's the game, here's the story, here's the environment, here's the missions and gameplay. Ta-da! Go enjoy it. Thank you very much. Give me money, right? And that's basically how it worked. And it worked great because they're selling it like crazy. I think even now, this week, Hogwarts Legacy is like 70% off on Xbox, probably on PlayStation as well. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy, honestly. We also can't forget though, Quidditch Champions, which, again, could have been a patch or a DLC for Hogwarts Legacy. Would have been fine. But again, they didn't do that. They're like, look, here is this entirely new, quote, game, and we're going to sell it to you for like $30-40. Why? I took a look at the game. It's pretty much dead. There's 300 people on Steam. That's it. It's over. And then it never even showed up on... Well, I think it showed up just for a moment on PlayStation Time Tracker in its first week. And it's like, yeah, the novelty's done. It's wore off. That came out earlier this year. It's already a dead game. Yay. Why couldn't if they had just made it DLC for Hogwarts Legacy, I think it would have sold so much more copies. Because Hogwarts Legacy has sold tens of millions. And really, like, you could have sold several million copies of like $30 DLC. That would have been tens of millions in revenue right there. But that's not what they got. So, and it had been forever too since the last Quidditch game. But what the frick? Yeah. The people of these companies, man, they need to get the frick out of the way and let people actually run their companies. Let the devs do what they do. Focus on the player experience, okay? Focus on just better price tags and all of this other stuff. They're screwing this stuff up. And what makes sense to me and you and other people that complain on our channels, they don't see it. They're not gamers. And shame on them. How can they make a product that is suited to us if they don't understand what makes us tick for video games? It's impossible, right? It's impossible. So yeah, don't hold your breath for Hogwarts Legacy 2. Don't get excited for the TV show. In my opinion, this is not sounding good. This is just more Twisted Metal issues, Rings of Power issues, Halo. Oh, God, that TV show, man. Halo adaption problems. Yeah, I'm just, oh my gosh. You know, one TV show I would actually like to see as an adaptation, or one game as an adaptation, would be Crysis. Just retell 1, 2, and 3. Just retell the games. It'd be fine. You'd make money on it. It'd help people get in the door to probably see some subscriptions. And don't focus on the characters' beliefs and feelings. It's like just freaking make him an action hero. Oh my gosh, it'll sell. It'd be great. But no, they're not going to do that. Time Shift, same thing. Name an action hero this decade, 2020s. Name an action hero. It's pretty freaking hard, isn't it? Yeah, it's pretty tough. And I think that's part of the problem. All right, let's talk about the update on next gen. Now, the reason I want to talk about this is because a lot of channels that I've been seeing when I'm doing the weekly news and trying to keep up with everything is that people keep talking about mentioning, well, I guess it's not too often, but it's enough. I want to bring this up. PlayStation 6 coming in 27, an Xbox coming in 2026, or that there isn't even going to be a next Xbox, which, again, is not the case. So let's actually get into this. So it's pretty hard to find anything solid outside of the information that we got during the Activision Blizzard FTC debacle court case that went on for way too freaking long and didn't really do anything. It just made the FTC look like an a-hole, and it just made Sony look worse too, which they've now been on that road for 2 years. So come on, Sony. Time to get your head in the game. But we did find out some stuff, of course. Some actual information. And this data was at the end of 2023, September of 2023, if I remember right. But we ended up getting some roadmaps. So we actually got a roadmap that shows the system on a chip focus actually being completed and more testing through 2026. And then ultimately getting some of the first prints out at the end of 2026. We got to see, too, that the first dev kits are going to go out in 27, and then final dev kits at the end of 27 with a launch of the console of 2028. This is the next-gen Xbox. So I don't believe, again, we'll get a handheld before then. We still have the ROG Ally. We still have the Steam Deck. They are wonderful options, and they do great. And Game Pass and Cloud works great on them. So again, I don't think Xbox really needs to build a handheld and start competing in a space that they're entering in at a later date than their competition, because the competition definitely has the leg up now. But if Xbox can sell the software and the subscription service by using their competitors in the handheld space, that would honestly be a lot more effective and efficient, and probably bring in a ton more revenue than trying to build their own console, their own handheld console, and sell it for $700 or $400 or whatever they want to sell it for. It's actually really hard to make money on hardware. It's pretty easy to make it on software. And Microsoft's a pro at this. I mean, Windows, Microsoft Suite, etc. They have 360 now. They have Azure. They have AI stuff to help with companies and business, and they're breaking in that money, baby. I mean, they are making money. They're like over $3 trillion valued now, well, which is insane. And Xbox is just a sliver. It's like a 30-second postage stamp on their entire earnings call, so it's not overly big. Yeah, this is all a roadmap actually from Xbox. And if we don't want to take their word for it, which a lot of people haven't been doing lately, they keep speculating, they keep not listening to exactly what they're saying, they keep extending and pretending that Xbox is done and over with. And it's like, look, folks, they're changing their business model. They're having a different focus. The focus they have had of trying to compete with PlayStation on a console level has not been working. It hasn't been working with exclusives either. So they're just getting out of the game. And there's literally nothing wrong with that. And people, too, are saying, like, look, competition is good. But then when Xbox is pulling this move, they're not really liking that either, which, again, doesn't really make a lot of sense. But it's like we're having this roadmap from Xbox that wasn't leaked. This was actually shared during the court case. So, under oath, all of that stuff, this has to be real. Otherwise, they are in super big trouble. Not that they couldn't tweak some things around, but generally speaking, when you have all of these components of launch games, accessories, like headsets, controllers, etc., the console itself, the dev kits, all of this has to be put into a timeline of multiple years. Not just like 3 years. This is like 5 plus, and you got to work on hitting all of these kind of benchmarks of staying in time with the scheduling and with everybody else, which is first party and third party stuff. And it's very complicated. And so it's kind of a slow moving land cruiser, which is very hard to stop. It is slow, so it takes its time. But again, it's like there's not really much you can do in stopping that Land Cruiser. Because if they botch the launch of the next gen console, it just doesn't look very good. Everybody knows that, okay? Whether it's a graphics card, a GPU, the CPU, the next thing of RAM, the next AI thing, the next PlayStation, Nintendo console, etc., right? You cannot botch you cannot botch big launch stuff. It just you have to get it right. So this is very slow, methodical. They have time to work on this. And if we're not willing to really believe this, that the next console is coming in 2028, then why are we even paying attention to what Xbox is saying in the first place, right? Now, Sony hasn't really revealed much, at least yet, right? But even people are saying, like, yeah, Sony's going to bring out the console in 27, which, again, it's possible, but it's unlikely. Generally, Sony and Microsoft put out their consoles at the same time. I mean, literally within months of each other or a month of each other. That's generally how it's been since they've been in the race, since they've been in the war, quote unquote. And so I think it's easy to anticipate that the PlayStation 6 will also be 2028. I mean, that makes sense, right? That's been the trend. Why would it be any different? The competition comes out roughly all around at the same time. So, again, it's like people can speculate. It's okay to watch these videos, but I want people to actually turn their brains on a little bit and understand that it's like, yes, the speculation is fun. It's interesting. Of course, I listen to a lot of it too, but we should also be thinking critically about this stuff, especially if we have a news channel, because if we are just parroting rumors like everybody else, then yeah, this becomes a problem. And when we're constantly pushing rumors all the time, this is how we get 33 teraflops for the PlayStation 5. This is how we get rumors that the PlayStation 5 Pro isn't just 33 teraflops, but is better than a 4070 graphics card, which now we know isn't even the case. It's not even close. So it's not horrible. It's still a benefit. But again, that technology is like 5 years old. There's way better stuff now, right? Those 4070s, 4080s, 4090s, they're not as old as that. They're maybe a year, couple of years, 3 years, 4 years old. And yeah, the PlayStation Pro isn't really going to compete too much. It's going to be better than the base, yes. And it'll probably be better in some aspects than the Series X, yes. But testing's already showed that in some aspects, the Series X can run basically Space Marine 2 at 60 frames, but the Pro can't or won't likely, or at least be able to maintain that because there's like CPU boost and all of this other stuff. So there's still more testing that we're going to see on the field. But again, it's like the rumors of 33 teraflops and all of this big fancy stuff. It's like, it's kind of gotten the Pro in trouble. And yeah, we need to make sure that we're actually presenting the news, not presenting rumors, or at least making that really clear. Because again, it's not just parroting of 33 teraflops for the Pro. It's also parroting of reviews, whether they're good or bad. It's also parroting anything else, like I'm trying to think, Tango Gameworks being shut down. And I kept telling people, it's like, no, that's not what they said, is that they were, closing the studio. But what was actually going on with the workers, they never said. So something was going on, and we found out later that Krafton was buying them, a mobile game publisher. And they're buying the Hi-Fi Rush IP along with it. Like, they're going to get that. So Xbox was making a deal, which was taking some time, and that's why everything kind of went silent. So Tango Gameworks isn't gone. They're just under somebody else, for better or for worse. But yeah, they're not gone. They're still there. So yeah, this is important, why we should be paying attention. And again, some of these channels are parroting that, like, Xbox is done and we're not getting an Xbox console and we're getting this Xbox handheld, and it's like, let's make sure that we're actually presenting the facts, please, because we don't need to be like every other type of news media out there. Okay, we don't need to be IGN and Rock Paper Shotgun and all of these others that, again, are just trying to give us short little pieces and get us emotionally driven instead of actually presenting facts. Because if a game actually does improve, like Payday 3, we'll never know it. Because, again, we have a bad attitude toward the launch and just think, oh, it can't get better. It's the same with Assassin's Creed Shadows. Let's actually wait to see what the game looks like. Do I have hope? No. But let's still actually see what Assassin's Creed Shadows looks like. That'll be Valentine's Day in February. And it's the same with other stuff too. I mean, let's actually chill a little bit. Let's relax. And let's focus on facts instead of emotion. It's the same with happening with the election right now. It's ridiculous. I don't like either side with what they're doing. It's embarrassing. It's frustrating. All right, let's continue on with the news. Let's talk about Stalker 2. So I got some more information today. I actually write a little posting note about this. But we're finding out that Stalker 2 is actually bigger than Black Ops 6. It is a huge game. The file size for Black Ops 6 is about 122 gigs. This includes zombies, campaign, multiplayer, and Call of Duty headquarters. We still have to get Season 1, which is coming pretty soon. We know, too, in December, we're also getting more multiplayer maps, more zombie maps. Like, there's more stuff coming. So, like, the file size will continue to grow. But Stalker 2, surprisingly, is 150 gigs. It's a huge game. They're also going to add multiplayer pretty soon after launch. Let's say a month, couple of months, something like that. Also, too, with Stalker 2, physical copies are currently sold out again. They made another run, and that run is already gone. That run was made like a week ago, and they're already sold out. All of those pre-orders are all taken up. It's crazy. So I'm hoping I can get my own physical copy of Stalker 2. I really want to be able to do that. But regardless, I will be showing it to you guys on Game Pass. That is coming out November 20th. But yeah, Stalker 2 honestly looks pretty good. There's something else I wanted to add also with Stalker 2, which finally, there's another company doing this besides Bethesda. And what I love is that they're adding mod support, not just for PC, but also for Xbox. Mod support. I am stoked for this. I am actually quite excited because I think it's really cool that people can add mods, share mods. I think it helps create and expand the game, change experiences, create replayability, all of this stuff. And things that maybe the publisher can't do, people will take the time to do in their free time. I think, too, it also opens up the door for, independent devs, like some doing it out of their apartments and whatever, are actually able to start making some money off of this. Though I think Bethesda needs to understand they need to lower the price of some of these so that there's actually a value proposition there. Because if there is enough value proposition, people will buy them, whether they're kind of buggy or not. But they do definitely need to work. There's definitely some quality control issues there too. So, but I am glad to see that another company is actually doing this. That's pretty cool. So yeah, again, November 20th, I'll be showing it to you guys here on the channel. Next, let's talk about something that was truly surprising yesterday on November 7th. Kojima Productions has bought Death Stranding IP from Sony. I was shocked. Kojima Productions owns full rights to the IP, full ownership. Sony decided to sell it. So I don't know if Kojima went to Sony and said, hey, I want to buy this. I don't know if Sony went to Kojima and said, hey, can we sell you this? I don't know who did what. We don't know that. We also don't know the price. But this was finalized really recently. As it was official today, Death Stranding 1 Director's Cut is now available on Xbox. And it's half price. Instead of $40, it's $20. So I already had some Xbox Microsoft credit. And so I picked the whole thing up for $10. It was great. I'm pretty stoked. I actually want to try it and enjoy my jogging simulator for $10. And if I don't like it, hey, it was only $10. That's not bad. But this also brings up some other stuff too, which is kind of surprising. I did see too that PlayStation still has it at full price. The discount is only on Xbox, as far as I could see. To kind of commemorate, hey, congratulations, you're getting Death Stranding now. It's no longer an exclusive. So Death Stranding has been an exclusive since 2017. It's so far sold 16 million copies. It's made some good money. But now it's going to sell more on Xbox. Between Xbox One and Series X and S, at least between those, we're looking at about 100 million people that are playing online. And that's quite a bit. That's honestly quite a bit. There's a lot in the ecosystem there. So they will make some money. And I want to remind you, too, that $20 isn't going to last forever. So if you are at all curious, save up a little bit, pick it up. Because, yeah, I don't know how long the discount's going to run, but it won't last forever. Kojima, there we go, himself expressed he's excited to bring the IP to other platforms, which includes Xbox. We already know that by now. But I am curious, will Death Stranding 2 be timed exclusive? It probably won't remain exclusive anymore. But will we still have a timed exclusive? I would assume yes. I would assume it would be like a 12-month exclusivity deal that's already been written in ink or has already been adjusted or whatever with Kojima Productions. And I do believe Death Stranding 2 will eventually come to Xbox. It only makes sense, right? If Kojima Productions ultimately wants Death Stranding 2 or wants to make more money, which they'll get all of the sales at this point, excuse me, then yeah, they would of course want it to actually come to other platforms. We've also seen too, especially with Square Enix coming out again earlier this week, saying that they are, ensuring, re-solidifying, whatever, their stance on bringing more stuff to Xbox, more stuff to more consoles, that they do not want to do exclusivity deals. Because again, they want to make all of the money that they can. And, ultimately, why shouldn't they? Okay. So yeah, this does have me very curious, because we know that Death Stranding 2 is basically being afforded by and paid for by Sony, and it has me curious why Sony sold the IP. Honestly, we don't know how much again, but since Sony actually paid for Death Stranding 2, this is why I do believe it will be a timed exclusive. Though, too, Generally speaking, if you sell, you either need the money or you don't think you can make money, or both. It's it's just kind of weird. And so it does have me pretty curious of exactly what's going on. We do know there's been financial issues with Sony, so they've had cancellations for PlayStation Plus after they raised their prices last year, this year. They've also had layoffs at Bungie. They've also had big time underperforming at Death Stranding 2. They've also had their delay of Marathon. They've also sunsetted Concord, which they lost a ton of money on that. Hopefully we'll get figures someday. They also had to close Firewalk. They didn't really see a way of benefiting from that, which is brutal. They've also had their PSN account requirements, which have gotten in the way of sales of like Helldivers 2 and probably other games like God of War Ragnarok, which again, we don't really have sales data on that either for PC yet. So yeah, some haven't been buying their games. Also, where is Fair Games with Haven Studios? I don't know. That's not making them any money. It's not even out yet. We also know they canceled 6 live service games. And the 6 we have been seeing have been junk. They've pretty much been junk. They've also lost money on Foam Stars, as that was an exclusive. Also, Judas isn't an exclusive anymore. We found out through a little asterisk thingy, that Judas is now actually going to be coming to Xbox at some point. Again, we don't know if it's timed exclusive or whatever, but it's not a true exclusive like we thought. Plus, where's Judas? We haven't heard anything on that game for a while. The Pro also is not selling out. It's the first time we've had a refresh where that hasn't happened. You can go buy it today. We also haven't had any growth in their subscription services for like 8 years now. So they're not making any extra money on that. It's probably just getting more expensive. That's why they raised the prices, right? Until Dawn remake. That's probably losing them money because the port was so bad. There's also no sales data on Astrobot, which is kind of weird. You'd think with all of these other games kicking it off, like Black Myth Wukong and Sparking Zero and even Starfield was pretty successful. They talked about how many players they had, how many pre-orders they had, how many people paid for early access, all of this stuff. Like, when it does well, we get sales numbers, right? We don't have any sales numbers really for Astrobot. Now we have chart numbers, but not totals, which is kind of weird. So I don't really believe it sold as well as they think it did. Plus, it's kind of weird with a game that sold really well that they would make 4 different extra DLCs for the game that are all coming out, I think, through January. So we got October, November, December, and I think we're getting another one in January. And these will just roll out. You'll be able to play them if you have the game. But yeah, again, that just doesn't really match that. If they could make more money, they would, right? Okay, they're a big company. Of course, they would do that. Just like Xbox, just like Nintendo, Steam, Epic Store, you get it. But yeah, it's just kind of weird they would just roll out 4 extra DLCs, put that time and money, and not actually get paid for it. Let's see. We did see, though, that in Japan, the launch week in Japan for Astrobot, it sold less than 13,000 copies. That's not a lot. Now, this is physical numbers, and we generally have... God, I'm just getting ads like crazy. This sucks. I'm not even monetized. This is actually incredibly frustrating. I'm not making any money on this, but if they're going to shove ads in there anyway, I might as well monetize myself, right? That is so stupid. It's like, anyway, I'll figure that out later. So yeah, we know with data that, of course, there's more digital sales, but usually when a game does really good, they want physical. So we can even extrapolate to a point on how many sales, but still, this keeps it well under 50,000 sales in the first week for Japan, which you'd think that would actually sell really well, because usually PlayStation consoles sell really, really well in Japan. I mean, that is quote-unquote their hometown, just like Xboxes in the United States. That's where the majority of Xboxes go around the world. But yeah, it's just kind of weird. So they've also undersold massively on the PSR or PlayStation VR 2, and also on the Portal. And Spider-Man 2 is already going to PC after like 13, 14 months. That's pretty fast. That's pretty fast. So ultimately, we were seeing a string of issues financially in the last couple of years. And yeah, something is just off with Sony. And now they're selling Death Stranding. And that's kind of big, okay? You have layoffs. They've already done that. You sell studios. You close studios. You cancel games. You kill the mobile stuff first. Like, there's kind of sequences to things that you do to try to, like, mitigate loss, right, and cut costs. But one of the last things you do is actually sell your assets. And that's what Death Stranding is. It is truly an asset to them, an intellectual property, and they're selling it. It just feels off to me. It just feels off to me. Like, still, I think it was a horrible idea for Xbox to sell off Tango Gameworks and also sell Hi-Fi Rush. They could have made more money off of that. Sure, they could have. They didn't expect it to do great, so they didn't really have plans for it, but it's like, you could still own the IP. It's just kind of weird. It's the same with Take-Two Interactive giving away all of the games and stuff that's going with Private Division. Again, it's just kind of weird. They've made some good games. There's some talent there. Hopefully. We've been proven wrong before, like Rocksteady. But yeah, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to actually start selling some of the intellectual properties. So I am curious. I kind of believe Sony is actually in more trouble than we think they are. And if Sony PlayStation is in trouble, well, that is the majority bulk of their business. It's a third of their business for Sony. See, if the PlayStation isn't doing well, Sony's not doing well. Now, that's not the case with Microsoft. We've already explained that. But yeah, this is a pretty interesting dynamic. I did not expect this today. It's pretty shocking. It is. It's really kind of crazy. One last thing I wanted to mention here for the news. The new white Xbox Series S. This is a 1 terabyte version. It's worse than the original model, which is kind of crazy. Now, it's not like this is horrible, like it's going to blow up and be a mess or it's not worth your time or money. It's just a worse version. It's not as good, looking at all of the specs, than the original. Let's get into why. So there's less traces on the motherboard, so they're saving some money there. There's a lighter and smaller heatsink. It also doesn't marry up very well with the compartment where the CPU sits. So again, that's not great. So there's a little bit of leakage there, and so more heat is actually leaking out into the console instead of actually being evacuated out of the console, which is what we want. You're also going to want, this also makes it run hotter, about 5 degrees Celsius from the testing that we had on the channel. This is. And so you kind of generally want to keep it clean every so often. You should be doing this anyway, but you want to do this more so with the 2024 model for the Series S, 1 terabyte white version. So you want to keep it clean. You want to keep it better in a place that's got better ventilation because, again, it runs hotter, right? And the more heat you have, the more wear and tear you have. This is the issue on why some of the older, thicker LCD TVs or even OLED TVs actually last longer than the new stuff, because the new stuff is extremely thin. And some of these TVs can get to over 200 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like 130. Well, I don't know what it is Celsius. I'd have to do the math, but over 200 degrees Fahrenheit is basically hot enough to boil water. And it even gets a little hotter than that for some of these really thin TVs. So thin is not necessarily your friend, and heat is definitely not for your electronics. Anytime you can, you want to keep things cool, you want to keep things clean, you want to make sure the fans are working, You want to make sure there's ventilation, like where all of my game consoles sit and even my router modem and TV, there is no enclosure. Zero. Zero. I do that on purpose. And that's why my stuff still runs when I don't have one of my kids throwing a toy into it. So it's great. It's great. I will be also doing Black Friday. I got to get a new TV now. And that's okay. I still absolutely love my kids. God, another ad. Man, they're just going bonkers with these freaking ads. Stupid. So yeah, definitely keep it clean, keep it ventilated, and it'll last longer for you than maybe it normally would. This is definitely cheaper to make. It is also the same price tag. Yeah, what I'll do is I'll link this down below so that you can actually take a look at the breakdown yourself if you wish. But yeah, if you're going to buy a Series S, buy the older model and be able to get an expansion card or something for more stuff, or buy the black version of the Series S. That would probably be better than this 2024 version. And there's a lot of different models out there now. It's starting to get confusing, but do your research. Ultimately, I think the best thing you should still buy is the original Series X. It's built very well for cooling, and it does a wonderful job. It's pretty quiet, honestly, and I got a used one, and it's great. I got no complaints, really. It's wonderful. One thing that was cool, and I hope this is kind of going to be continue to be integrated with the next-gen stuff and anything else that Xbox makes, but the new model actually had etches of what screw you needed, or screwdriver you needed for the screw, which is actually really cool. And they kind of had like a light map out of what you're supposed to do in tearing down the unit. Now, normally this isn't as big of a deal, of course, but the fact that pretty much every single company doesn't want you actually repairing or replacing or digging into the electronic ever, except for like a desktop PC. That's really the only one. But like headsets, controllers, earbuds, TVs, like they really don't want you digging into anything. They just want you to go buy a new one, right? And that's planned obsolescence. That's all on purpose. But it is getting harder to actually repair stuff. Some stuff's basically impossible at this point, but I'm not going to bore you with all that. But I did think it was cool that they actually took time to etch into the material, into the motherboard and stuff, and some other locations where all of the screws are for the Series S 2024 version, that it's actually etched in there for what you need and kind of the sequence. You don't really need an iFixit guide anymore, unless you just really want to be sure and have the extra help. That's totally fine. But you can kind of see how to take it down, and the etching helps you with all of that and tells you what screwdrivers you need and stuff. And that's just really cool. Like, I want to be able to have right to repair for everything, whether it's tractors, cars, electronics, anything else. I think right to repair is extremely important because it makes sure that these manufacturers don't maintain a monopoly and just charge whatever the frick they want, right? Which is kind of ridiculous. Like, we can all complain about stick drift and how many times we've actually bought another controller because now we have stick drift. So it's like, oh, I'm going to go buy a new one. And we know that the quality generally sucks in most cases compared to what it used to be. That's why I have a 96 truck with 217,000 miles on it now, and I'm very proud of this because dead of winter, sat for a month, it just turns on. It's just great. I love it so much. I love that flipping truck, man. And it was $4,000. It was cheap. But with a lot of electronics today, we can't actually do that. It's hard to repair. It's hard to find parts. You can't even find parts. You got new models and all this other stuff, whatever. And they're selling you usually more restrictive versions than the previous versions were. So I'm hoping Xbox with the next gen and whatever else they're going to be making, even if it's another handheld, they actually take the time to make it more user-friendly to repair and to take apart. Or even replace stuff. I hate what they did with their partitions on their internal hard drives, right? With their SSDs. It's like, oh, well, this SSD is perfectly paired with the motherboard. and so you can't swap it out for another one unless you move the partition over, which you need a laptop and computer and some know-how in order to do that, and probably a couple of guides to walk you through it. So again, that is just frustrating. That's just a frustrating reality that we have. But yeah, I did think that was pretty cool. So that's going to end it, folks. Thanks for tuning in. I know this is a long one, but hey, it's gaming news. It is busy right now, and the idea is to consolidate it all in one place. So if you like that, go ahead and like, sub, all that jazz. You can also follow me over at Discord, Twitter X, and also over on Twitch. Twitch has everything there first. Everything eventually makes it over to YouTube. And then if you're interested in gaming news, you might also like the State of Gaming. That's a playlist that I have available. Plus, we have some playthroughs, too. So I do a co-op playthrough all the time. I'm doing one with Lion. We just finished Shadow of the Erdtree. We just started the Quarry as kind of like a short palette cleanser for Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. And then you guys will actually get to pick what our next co-op is. I'm excited to see what you'll pick. Stay tuned for the polls. Also, too, I'm doing single player with the Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3 Remaster Collection. I'm on Tomb Raider 3 right now, and again, that's all a playlist, too. Later in the year, next year, we're going to be getting remaster of Tomb Raider 4, 5, and 6, and I'll be showing that to you guys as well. But when there's a gap for single player, I also want you guys to be able to vote on the next IP, whether it's Final Fantasy 1 through 6, Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3, or something else. I mean, I want to be able to show what you guys would be interested in, that you and I both actually would be interested in. Because, yeah, if I hate it, I'm not going to like it. You're not going to like it. It's just going to be a bad experience for everybody. So, again, hopefully you guys are doing well. Looks like, too, Rafael, the hurricane is actually going to turn into Mexico. So those of you in Texas, looks like you're going to be okay. And with that, folks, we'll see you guys on the next